everybody, how's it going? It's a Daily Shooter, and today we're going to go ahead and continue with the large windowed optic review series by taking a look at the Meprolight True Dot RDS. This is a red dot sight with a very large viewing window. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Meprolight RDS. And if you haven't figured it out already, RDS stands for red dot sight. Now, this red dot sight, I'm kind of putting in the same category as a lot of other optics that I've been reviewing recently, based on the size of the viewing window itself. Regardless if it's a red dot sight, holographic sight, or a reflex sight, this right here is intended to be used for quick target acquisition and give you a nice wide field of view. It is a 1x magnification optic, meaning that it pretty much has no magnification at all. What you see with your naked eye is what you're going to be able to see through this optic right here. But again, like a lot of the other optics that I've been reviewing recently, which I'm going to put in a large windowed optic playlist, this provides you a great field of view. Now here's the thing, when that whole debacle with EOTech happened, a lot of people ditched their EOTechs, they got a refund, and they were looking for something that was somewhat comparable. And I did notice that there were some people that went over to this, and I believe that this is a comparable option. There are some great things about this optic, but also there are some what I would consider to be downsides with this optic as well, and we're going to go ahead and go over all of those. But first thing I want to start off with is the viewing window as compared to a lot of other large windowed optics. This one right here is not quite as tall as some of the other ones as far as the window goes, but it probably has the widest field of view, out of any of the optics that I've reviewed yet. It is extremely wide, so when you're looking down this optic, you're able to see everything just about left or right, regardless if you have one eye opened or both eyes open. It just allows for just an immense field of view when you're looking through this thing, and you get almost no tunnel vision whatsoever. The hood on this optic is short versus some other optics that have come out on the market, like the Leupold, or the new Vortex UH1, which kind of have very large protected hoods on them. You do get a little bit of tunnel vision with this one because the hood and the protective area is so small, you don't really get that effect whatsoever. It has a nice red dot. The red dot is 1.8 MOA, so just under 2 MOA, which is going to allow you to still get quick target acquisition while at the same time allowing you to get good aiming and good accuracy at further distances. So 1.8 MOA means that it's going to cover approximately, well, just below, because 1 MOA is 1.047 inches, but still approximately 1.9 inches at 100 yards, so about right about there. So you can still get nice, good, accurate shots, and the red dot's very crisp. It's very clear, and it does get bright enough. So you do have a very nice, and that's one of the positive things. It's got a nice, clear, bright red dot. It's very easy to see. It's very easy to acquire, especially in a large windowed optic like this. But there are downsides to the red dot as well. One of the downsides that I see is the fact that it really doesn't have very many brightness settings at all. There are a total of 4 brightness settings. There is a night vision setting, which leaves you only 3 daytime settings. So you either have very bright, medium, or very, very hard to see. And for some people, I guess that can be fine. You know, if you're talking about using this for home defense, it's going to be indoors, things like that. You might know the exact setting that you want to go to, and you could maybe easily find it because there's not 20 different settings to scroll through. And that's fine. But for me, I like a little bit more adjustability in the brightness settings because I don't always want to run it either on just all the way high or on medium. Sometimes I like a little bit more leveling. And so that's one thing to me, in my personal opinion, is kind of a downside. Now, one of the things that I consider an upside is the fact that there are no plastic knobs, no plastic buttons, or anything like that on this sight. It has a turn dial. That's what you use to adjust your brightness setting. And that turn dial is also metal. I believe it's metal, but it feels like metal. And it's very sturdy, so it allows you to change that. There's no rubber buttons to wear out, nothing to pull off or anything, so that's nice. Now, another thing about this that could either be a positive or negative for you is the fact that the protective hood, at least on the outside, from what I can see, is plastic. I don't know if that's a big deal to a lot of people, and depending on what your stance is on certain types of polymers, that could be a negative. For me, it is kind of a negative. I like something that is hard, like aluminum. The Holosun actually uses a titanium cover in order to protect its lens, and that's a very inexpensive optic. It is actually quite a bit less expensive than this particular one right here. This one falls just under $500. But still, it's plastic. I don't know. They could have a metal frame underneath that hood that protects the glass a little bit more with a polymer frame over it. But from what I can see, it looks like simply just a polymer frame. I'm sure it's a good polymer, like a nylon-filled polymer that's extremely strong or something like that. Nonetheless, you can take from that what you want and decide whether or not that's something that you want. This is a tested and true optic. It's been around for a while. It's been beat up by a lot of different people, and it's been shown to be durable. So you have to take that into account when you're looking at this as well. Now, there is another thing that I want to tell you that I think is, again, either a positive or negative, depending on how you look at it. But for me, I'm kind of looking at this as a negative. On the bottom, this has a very large footprint. Okay, it's a very long footprint, and it takes up several Picatinny rail spaces. The problem that I see with this is that not only does it take up multiple Picatinny rail spaces, but it has a proprietary locking system on it, so a quick detach locking system on it that feels very flimsy. The locking system consists of two different locking points, so it locks on two different parts of your rail with a center rail section that fits inside your Picatinny rail. So that's nice. I mean, that means that it's going to be good when you lock it back on. It's probably going to re-zero every single time. But the problem that I have is with the locks themselves. They feel very light. They feel almost kind of cheesy, like they're just very flimsy, and they don't hold up very well. I just don't like, I feel like they could have made a more robust locking system for an optic like this. Now, one thing that I do really like is the fact that the adjustment turrets, sort of like on the Trijicon MRO and other optics that are out there, the adjustment turrets are capless. Okay, so you don't need any type of cap or to remember to put something back in order for this to remain waterproof. It is completely waterproof and submersible, and you don't have to worry about losing those caps on the adjustment turrets after you've used them. You simply go down, the adjustment turrets are completely accessible. You can use a coin, you can use a bullet casing, anything that you might find on the ground that you can fit in there. You can make your adjustments very quickly and then go right back to shooting without having to worry about screwing something back on or taking it off because it wasn't exactly how you wanted it. They're just easily accessible. That is one option that I like. Another option that I like is the fact that it uses a single AA battery, a very easy to find, very accessible battery that is available anywhere. Now, CR2032 batteries, which is what a lot of other manufacturers are using these days, are also very easy to find. They're more and more common as time goes on because they are being used in more and more products. They're little 3-volt batteries. But still, using a AA means that it's just a little bit more common. Instead of buying a 1-pack or a 2-pack, you can buy a 200-pack of batteries and have them forever. Okay, so that's one thing that I think is very nice. It sits in this little front compartment. The compartment kind of sticks out. It does sort of remind me of like an EOTech 512 that has the 2 AA batteries in the front, except for this one only uses 1 AA battery. The only thing that I can't find, and I went to just about every website, is whether or not this has a long run time or a short run time. It says it lasts for thousands of hours. Even on the Optics Planet website, I couldn't find exactly how long that is and on which setting that they say it lasts on. But it says it lasts for thousands of hours, and there's only 4 settings, so I would assume that's probably the middle setting, maybe number 3 or something like that. I'm assuming, because it's using a AA battery, again, this is just me assuming and not a fact, that it probably lasts around 5,000 hours. However, it does have auto shut-off and auto turn on. So if you forget to turn it off, you have it on all the way bright because there's not that many settings, and you sit it down for a little while, it will eventually turn itself on, turn itself off, and then when you pick it up, it will turn itself back on. So it is an always on optic. And with that auto shut off, I suppose that the battery could last, infinitely longer than what I'm giving it credit for. Now, I do want to mention that I did get this optic from Optics Planet. They're the ones that have been supplying the optics for this particular series, and I really want to thank them a lot. They have given me a coupon code to pass on to you guys, which is TDS5. TDS5 will give you 5% off on your entire order over at Optics Planet, and you guys can use that on pretty much anything. So save yourself a little bit of money. It's helpful, and most of the time these optics are actually the best price that you can find at Optics Planet anyway. I've searched the internet sometimes to see if I can find a better price, and I don't think you can beat Optics Planet's price, especially if you use that discount code. I'll put a link in the description box below. Now, before I give you my final opinion, there's a couple other things that I want to go over real quick. One is going to be the size. This is about the exact same size as most other optics in this particular category. They tend to be a little bit longer. They tend to take up a little bit more rail space. There are some that are a bit shorter, again, referring back to the Holosun, which is quite a bit shorter. But still, comparing it to a lot of the other optics that are similar to this in the same category, you're taking up about the same amount of footprint space on the top of your upper receiver. The only thing with this is because since it has a bar all the way in the very front right here, it doesn't allow you to extend it out very much further past the upper receiver onto the handguard. handguard without actually clicking this thing onto the handguard. And for accuracy reasons, obviously you don't want to do that, so you want to keep it on the upper receiver, and it takes up a lot of space, leaving not very much room for magnifiers, flip-up sights, and stuff like that. Yes, you can still fit them on, but there's just not a lot of room to do that. You'll take up your entire rail at that point. Now with the weight, you're looking at about 10.5 ounces, okay? So about 10.5 ounces, you're sitting again pretty much at the average for an optic like this. So you're not really gaining anything, you're not really losing anything at that particular weight class. 10.5 ounces again is pretty much the average. Now onto my final opinion. I had pretty good experience with this. You know, I slapped this thing on a couple different rifles, I took it out, I shot with it, I was able to see the red dot, it was accurate, it held up. On the 308, it also held up on my shotgun. And I was really happy with it. Obviously, it holds up on 5.56. I mean, it's very light recoil. But if you're going to be bouncing it around the back of your truck, it seems like it's going to be a pretty strong optic. And my experience with it was really good. One of the nice things about it, one of the best things about it, is not just the fact that, yes, it has a very large viewing window and you can get a good sight picture with this, but it is also very simple. There's really just not much to it. You know, there's not much to this at all. You either have it on or you have it off, and your dot is either on the target or it's not. And that is basically what this optic boils down to. It is extremely simple, it is very easy to use, it's very easy to see, and so I had a good experience with that. Again, there's a couple things that I would like to see a little bit different about it, but I'm not really gonna fault it because that depends on the user and what the user likes. These are all my particular opinions. I think it should have a little bit more brightness settings. The brightness levels are fine, but I think it could use a little bit more settings. A bit more of a robust mounting surface would be nice, and maybe bring the front one back so you can extend it a little bit forward if that would be possible, and provide a little bit more information as to the battery life and be a little bit more open in the brochure and let people know exactly what the details are. Now, I do want to let you know one significant downside. There is one significant downside, and I didn't necessarily save this to the end of the video. I just now remembered. The one significant downside is that this uses a mirrored system. The problem is that the hood is so short on this that the mirror on the inside is very visible. If you have your rifle in a perfectly parallel to the ground way, you know, somebody that's standing in front of you isn't going to see that mirror. But if you angle it down just a bit, it provides a massive projection forward. I mean, it reflects any light that's coming from the sun or above you directly forward, and it is almost like a signaling device as you're trying to, you know, point at a target. And if you're a serious person, if you're in law enforcement or you're a specific agency, or you're somebody who is out there and depends on this for their life, you could very easily be standing around the corner of a building, pop out, and just end up giving yourself away absolutely instantly just because of the reflection that you would get out of this. So to me, that is one major downside, but something for those people to consider if you're not just an absolute, you know, in danger of your life scenario and it's just going to be a range toy, then maybe that doesn't, you know, matter to you. Anyway, this is the Meprolight RDS. Definitely worth checking out. Again, I'll put a link in the description box, and I will create a playlist with all of these types of optics in it. Thank you all very much for watching. Please like, subscribe. Have a great day.